Welcome back. Before we get things started here with our first video journal, we're going to be taking a moment to talk about Star Trek the Original Series, the DVDs themselves, so that you can get an idea of the packaging and what you're going to be getting into when you buy them for yourselves. Basically what you're going to be getting is this little kind of stocky packaging inside of a clamshell plastic case. Pretty sturdy actually. It kind of makes you feel a little bit more secure that your DVDs are protected. The only awkward part about it is it kind of comes in this squatty little thing and you flip it out and it's just this big disc tray with all your discs in it. It's cool because they're HD and standard edition, so like they're double-sided discs, but that's always kind of annoyed me because then after you watch them you have a tendency to put them back in upside down, and it just kind of sucks when you want to flip right to the disc you want to put in. But other than that, it's good. I have to give the packaging at least a good 4 out of 5 stars actually for this set because of one specific thing. You get these awesome little plastic insert cards with all this information on the back, and basically it's like the episodes that are on the disc, the star date, and the original air date, which is just kind of cool little trivia to know, like when you're watching an episode and it'll be like, oh, so people originally saw this on this day in 1969, you know? So it just kind of gives you a little more of an insight into the show that you're watching, which is nice, you know? I mean, despite the kind of awkward shape of the package itself, like it doesn't really fit on my shelf properly with all my other DVDs, it's still sturdy enough to make up for it, you know, and the inclusion of those little plastic inserts just makes my day, you know. I love little extra shit like that. It reminds me of back in the day when like you would buy a sweet VHS tape and you would have it for like years. This happened with my Evil Dead, and I actually had multiple different copies of Evil Dead with various, like one had like a little booklet in it that was like that thick, but on the back of the one that I had for the longest, one time I accidentally pulled it out and there was like this whole like behind the scenes little article on the back of the insert. Or the thing is actually like a letter written by Sam Raimi or something, like a little, you know, intro note to the movie. And it was just cool to find, but I mean that's kind of reminds me of that in a way. Definitely a good set. The only drawback is they run about 50 bucks a piece. At least they did when I bought them. Now you could probably maybe get them for 30 or 40 bucks, but I doubt it. One thing with Paramount or whatever, I believe it's Paramount. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Paramount that puts out the DVDs or whatever. They're kind of, you know, steep with the pricing, but it's worth it, man, because you get all that stuff, and then I believe there's pretty good amount of fucking extras on there, and they include the original pilot and like previews, the original TV previews for every episode, which I usually always watch the one for the following episode when I'm done. So there it's been, man. Like I said, pretty sturdy packaging, you know, looks nice, looks interesting on a shelf. They look nice displayed all next to each other, and so that's a plus. The only downside really being is they're obviously kind of an awkward shape, so they kind of like tend to form their own little area up on the shelf, you know, and so that's kind of a downside, but I guess it makes your Star Trek collection stick out from the rest, so that's good. 4 out of 5 on the packaging, 5 out of 5 on the show all the way, and here we go with our first video journal. Sorry my voice is kind of stammery and I might seem a little stupid right now, but that's just because it's like 6:37 in the morning. I've been up all night watching Star Trek, and I just kind of got inspired, so I decided I'd knock these first videos down. First thing, might as well get an early start on this journey because we're going to be here a while, so thanks. We'll see you next time.
Captain's log, star date 1324.1. On planet M113, we encounter a killer from a lost world.
Red modeling all over his face. What happened?
What do you suppose happened, Captain? You beamed down a crewman who doesn't know better than to eat...
I've just lost a crewman, Mrs. Crater. I want to know what happened. And what kills a healthy man? I'll tell you something else. This man shouldn't be dead. I can't find anything wrong with him. According to all the tests, he should get up and just walk away from here.
Can you recognize this thing when you see it? Professor, I'll forego charges up to this point.
But this creature's aboard my ship, and I'll have it, or I'll have your skin, or both. Now, where is it?
I'll kill to stay alone. You hear that, Kirk?
Crater knows the creature, if we can take him alive.
We don't want you here.
Let's get him.
Welcome back. We're going to be taking a moment to talk about episode 1 of Star Trek, the original series. The Man Trap originally aired on September 8th, 1966. Great episode, good way to kick off the series. Many of you may not know, it's not the original pilot. I think that Star Trek is one of the only series in history that they shot like 2 or 3 pilots. I think it was 2 pilots before they ever aired the show, you know. So they went through a lot of processes getting it just right before they actually put it out on the market. And Man Trap, I believe, was the first episode that was ever aired, so that was the first experience most people had in the public with Star Trek, and boy howdy is it an experience to have, man. 5-star episode all around. Basic gist of it is they're kind of going past this planet and they have to do a routine medical check on this guy and his wife, these archaeologists that are stationed down on the planet, you know, investigating. They're the only 2 people on the whole planet, and they're there investigating the ruins of this ancient civilization, which is pretty much the only other thing on the planet other than like weeds and dirt, you know, and that's basically it. It's just a big kind of like arid desert planet, and there's these ruins on it and these people are studying it, right? So they go down there, and unbeknownst to them, each of them is seeing this lady, his wife, in a different way. Like the one crewman sees her as this hot chick, and he basically calls her a hooker at one point, or a pleasure gal, you know, or says she looks just like this pleasure gal that he once knew. It's pretty funny. I'll include the clip.
And Crewman Darnell.
How do you do?
Something wrong, Darnell?
Oh, excuse me, sir, but... Ma'am, if I didn't know better, I would swear that you were somebody I left behind on Wrigley's Pleasure Planet. It's funny, you're exactly like a girl that...
A little less mouth, Darnell.
Well, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to, I mean, I know it's impossible, of course.
Why don't you step outside, Darnell?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Maybe I'll step outside, too.
What?
And, you know, Bones sees her like she's this girl, which the backstory to it is that it's supposed to be like one of Bones' ex-girlfriends, so that's why it's kind of weird that they're going there to check up on him. You know, he's getting to see his ex again, and she's married to this other guy, supposedly, and all this. That's the pretense to the whole thing. So he sees her like she hasn't aged a day, and Kirk just kind of sees her the same way, but older and grayer, you know. And so basically it's like it can influence them, or it can like tap into what their preconceptions of what the person should look like is, but basically it makes itself look the way they want to see it. I mean, that's evident right from the first minutes of her appearance in the episode, that something's a little off about it. Push comes to shove, Kirk and Bones are there talking to the guy, and he's a little, you know, uncooperative, really. He's a dick right off the bat, which should have been like a big red flag to both of them, that something's a little weird. Like, this guy should be looking forward to company after not seeing anybody, and probably should be in need of a medical checkup, you know, and he's just kind of being a dick to him. Meanwhile, the crewman goes outside with the lady or whatever, and then they just hear this scream, and they run out there and find him, and it looks like the guy's had like squid sucker cups all over his face, you know, and he's just dead. So they beam him back up to the ship, and they're like trying to figure out what's wrong with him, and Bones is stumped. He can't figure out any reason why this guy shouldn't just be up walking around, right? So they're kind of trying to figure it out at the same time as they're, you know, getting suspicious of this guy down on the planet, this archaeologist or whatever. So they're like scanning the planet, and it turns out that he's like the only life sign on the planet anymore. So that they think he's done something to his wife at this point. Then, you know, eventually Bones, I think it is, figures out that the guy, the reason why he's dead is because he's been completely sucked of salt, right? And then they kind of start thinking like, okay, they were both asking for salt, so that's a little weird. So they beam back down to talk to the guy, and he just kind of doesn't really give them any information, right? And then 2 more crew members end up dying, and I kind of fudged up there. Like, it didn't start out like he was the only life sign. Originally, when they went back down there to talk to him the second time after they figured out the salt thing, the lady ended up kind of just going off again, and 2 crewmen ended up dead, and she ended up impersonating one of them and getting back up onto the ship with him. So they're thinking this is a little weird, things were a little fishy with the guy, so that's when they start scanning for life signs. And it turns out he's the only one. So they go back down there thinking he's done something to his wife. Meanwhile, people are turning up dead on the ship. So they basically know the things on the ship, so they come back up with the guy. They bring him back up because he eventually snaps out and tries, like, shooting at him, and Spock and Kirk have to do a badass, like, pincer distraction tactic to shoot the guy, and it's really weird because, like, when he gets shot with a stun ray, his voice goes all deep and creepy for a minute, which I don't really remember happening in other episodes of Star Trek. I could be mistaken, though. And so basically they teleport back up there with the guy, and, you know, they end up discovering that the lady came back up and, like, tricked Bones into taking drugs, I guess, and passing out so that she could impersonate him, and then things just go horribly awry, leading to one of the sweetest scenes with Spock ever, where he's just like double axe handling the chick in the face to prove to Bones that it's a monster.
Doctor, quickly! No! No! It's killing the captain! Shoot, quick! I won't shoot Nancy. This is not Nancy. If she were Nancy, could she take this? Stop it! Stop it, Spock! Stop it!
Killer episode, good way to kick off the series because it just kind of like throws you right in there, you know? It's like as if we should have seen these pilots or whatever, and these people just known each other for years, they're right in there. There's no real build-up. It doesn't start out like TV shows do nowadays where the whole pilot's like just introducing all these characters and kind of just building basically the cast list before they even start telling you a story. It kind of works in that way. I mean, you get introduced to each of the characters minus Scotty. I don't know if he just wasn't on the cast yet at this point. I never really noticed that he wasn't in the first episode. Maybe he's not in the first few, who knows. But I will definitely be making a note of when Scotty makes his first appearance. You get a little bit of insight into Spock, and there's a sweet part where Uhura basically is trying to tell him to hit on her, and he's just not really understanding it, and then he doesn't have any reaction when he finds out the first crewman died, so that kind of peeves her a little bit. Good moments with Bones and Kirk, one of which I will be including because it's just so funny the way Kirk just snaps on him and Bones is like, climbs up real quick, you know, like he knows he was kind of getting off track there a little bit, and Kirk had to smack him one, get him back online, basically. Verbally, though.
I don't know. I'll have the test double-check. My eyes may be tricking me. But I swear, Jim, when I first saw her, she looked just as I'd known her 10 years ago. Granted, the moment I may have been looking at her through a romantic haze.
How your lost love affects your vision, Doctor, doesn't interest me. I've lost a man. I want to know what killed him.
Yes, sir.
I mean, just like I said, all in all, it's a good way to kick off the series, so definitely check it out and, you know, enjoy. Man Trap, September 8th, 1966, so it's a good time on television, I'll tell you what, right there, especially if that was the first ever episode of Star Trek that you ever saw. I could see that getting me hooked right there, you know, if I was my age back in those days, you know. I definitely would have been into it, but till next time.